I've been happily using Parallels Desktop for my Windows and other operating system virtual machine needs on my Mac for a few years now. Its performance supports multiple operating systems, and with a few tweaks here and there, you can also use it for headless virtual machines, container runtimes, Kubernetes, etc., etc. On top of all of that, it also has some pretty nice configuration options, profiles, and integrations with macOS. However, times are financially tight, and every time I see that recurring fee, even though it's small, approaching, I think maybe it's a good time to look at some alternatives. And recently, VMware announced that they are making Fusion Pro free for personal use. I'm Christian Chiller, and in this video, I'm going to take a look at emulation, virtualization options for running Windows, Linux, other operating systems on macOS. You can find more about me at christianchiller.com, and of course, if you enjoy, please leave a comment, tell me what you're using, share, etc., etc. All highly appreciated. All right then, let's get started. Before I begin with the roundup, let's take a look at some of the terms and terminologies you're likely to hear in this video and in the wider running an operating system on macOS space. First is a virtual machine. This is a virtual representation of a computer that you can then install an operating system onto. Some use native architecture and virtualization to basically, say for example, run the ARM version of Windows or the ARM version of Ubuntu on an ARM-based Mac, whilst others emulate. So this would be running an Intel version of Windows on an ARM-based Mac. Another option, mostly in the Wine group of tools, which I will cover later, are instead a compatibility layer. This translates calls to and from the Windows API to POSIX calls instead, which are on any Unix-like operating system, which includes Linux and macOS. And then finally, there is containers. Now, I've had lots of videos on containers. This is not a video where I will go into detail on containers, but for the context of this video, which is not completely developer focused, you can think of them as very small virtual machines that have kind of a shared layer provided by the tool they run in, and they're usually running different applications or services. And the reason I mention it in this list, whilst there are tools dedicated to running containers, some of the options in this video also support containers. Those are the main terms. Other things you may hear is Apple's Game Porting Toolkit, which is designed for developers to port Windows game code to macOS, but you can also use it to run Windows games and evaluate their performance. Okay, with all that. So this is Parallels. I'm going to run it in the game-only mode, which changes a bunch of settings here. I'm going to attempt to capture audio at the same time, but it can be a little inconsistent. You can see that even before I start, OBS is consuming a fair bit of CPU for the recording. This is going to affect the VM, and the VM is probably going to affect OBS as well. I'm also running it in 1080p. This is just because this is my recording format. It's not the optimal setting for a lot of games, but let's boot up and get started. So it actually starts pretty quickly. I have a couple of Steam games I'm going to try, neither of which are exactly modern cutting-edge titles, but modern enough, good on Windows, modern enough and modern enough for this test purpose, this comparison. And I'll basically look at the CPU impact and kind of give you a general feeling of how it feels. So it tends to kick in at around 220 on the CPU, whatever that may mean. And we'll see what happens as we push things harder. Let's begin with Civ 6. So not a lot of real-time stuff, but fairly heavy in some ways. And let's see how it feels. Now, what Parallels does is map Metal APIs, which is Apple's graphics libraries, to DirectX 11, maybe 12 in the future. If you do it with 12, it won't work. Maybe it'll work with a lot of configuring, but it works with 11 by default. Loading on a lot of these games can always take a little while. It doesn't always have much to do with the virtual machine. So the CPU is running pretty well. I cannot hear the fan going, and it's hot today. I actually have the window open, which is not, if you could hear a noise, it's not my fan, it's the noise outside. So it's quite warm, and the computer feels fine. So we've come to a cut screen. Seems to be ticking along okay. I wouldn't mind like just whacking up a few settings. It's not going to be able to really detect what you're running here because it's an odd sort of emulated display. I don't really know what this means. I guess middle value seems reasonable. Could probably whack this up a bit, but I'll keep it there for now. Go back. I am just going to fire up a quick game. Let's go for a scenario maybe. There you go. Why not? I was back in Australia recently. Wow. I might have to try that one at some point. And just start. I noticed the sound was coming in a bit hot there, so I just brought that down a bit. So the first part of this may have been peaking a little. I don't even know what it sounds like. I have it muted whilst I'm recording, so it's going to be a surprise to me. This always takes a little while. Let's have another quick look at CPU. So it's gone up a little bit. Computer still seems okay. I'm going to take my headphones off. I don't think the fan's going. You can actually see that the biggest impact is on memory, which is reasonable. This is the memory you assign to the VM. I could probably also assign more, of course, if I wanted to. I have 32 gig, so maybe this is, yeah, it's getting close. Okay. All right. Now you always get a bombarding of these. Great. Okay. So I'm just going to zoom in and out a bit. It seems pretty reasonable so far. I can scroll around. There's not a lot to see. It is Australia after all. To Barrier Reef, very nice. I like the map. It's kind of cool. Uncharted territory. I think I'm definitely going to have to play this one. This will be fun. I mean, to be honest with you, it's working fine. I don't think I really need to do too much more. Okay, go. There we go. That moves pretty smoothly. Anyway, with relation to the test, I think things are running fine. So for the next one, I'm going to try Divinity. I think this one is probably going to have a bit more impact. Okay, this takes a while to load usually. Let's have a look. So far, this is okay. Actually, I can hear the fan now, though, interestingly. It's funny, when the fan decides to kick in, I can't tell what the reason is. Let's have a look at the options here. Now, from memory, it's because it doesn't know how to detect the graphics card here. So I may go for medium, maybe. Frame cap. This is very hard to know exactly what to configure here. I'm sure you could find settings to tweak this. I may just sort of up a few things. I know on the Mac I can usually whack it up a fair bit. I think it'll do. It feels a lot darker as well, but this could also be the resolution. CPU is still actually reasonable. So the graphics don't seem quite as slick as on my native version. Oops. Very good.
You know what? You've heard that one before, so let's try a new one. Shite's all mucked up.
I didn't really want to open this, I'm not sure. There we go. A little sluggish. Also not completely sure what zooming in is on the Windows version. So let's just sort of go do something. It's running okay. I tried this on a few different graphic settings before, and I got some glitches. This doesn't seem to glitch quite so much, but it works fine. It's doable. It's playable. It's obviously kicking in on the resources, but I think that would happen on the Mac version too. It's reasonable. I'm not really experiencing any major problems. CPU's kicked in a bit, but it's fine. It's fine. Next is the turn of VMware Fusion, the free version, of course. Downloading and installing the games took a very long time, longer than with Parallels. I don't really know why or what that's going to mean in the general performance. It has no kind of settings like Parallels does. With regards to sort of quick overrides or things, you have to basically kind of jump in and figure it out yourself. So I've gone for 4 cores, 12 gigabytes, I think, for the games. Maybe let's put it up to 16. Let's stick to 4. I think that's going to be okay. Display, DirectX 11. Yeah, this all seems reasonable. The other thing I will note that it was quite complicated to add the space needed For a drive, I had to add a second drive. You'll see that in Windows, and I made it ridiculously large because I didn't really know what I was doing and then finally figured it out because I don't know how to format drives in Windows, basically. So let's kick it up and see what happens. So you can see here, this is the process. So far, it's using less CPU than Parallels, or only slightly. We will send this full screen because that was the same as with Parallels. I don't know if there's a special way to do that, or if we can just do it the normal way. Let's follow its way, maybe. There we go. All right. So I'm going to start with opening Steam. I'm going to do it the same way. So I didn't really see an installer in the end. It kind of just took me through a bunch of updates to the 2K launcher here, which is where we got to with Parallels. So let's switch that to DirectX 11 as well. So far, I'm not really feeling any sluggishness or anything like that. It actually seems okay. No fan. The CPU activity is fine. Let's actually kick off the game and see what happens. It's jumped up a fair bit, but nothing terrible. And we can see the memory it's using. So it's using less memory than Parallels did as well. This is something to bear in mind. And it's increasing a little. And I set that cap at 16. All right, we're loading. So far, so good. So you should be hearing audio now. I can't hear it right now. I don't know how good it sounds. This looks reasonable so far. This all looks pretty much the same, which is good. This is similar with Parallels, actually. That's fine. I entirely remember exactly what I set. Yes, this was lower, wasn't it? But it's interesting it's picked that up. So I might even stick to that for now. We'll up this slightly. And now that is interesting, yeah. Let's go with what it wants to do then, I reckon. Okay. And so far, so good. At this point in time, 270, it's not terrible. Let's just follow the same path. Where was it? That was it. Yep. No major issues. Let's have a look at that CPU again. So it's jumped up a little, but again, not terrible. There is also this little running down here as well. Maybe some of these other things, it's hard to tell exactly what else might be triggered. So this is taking a little bit of time. I can now hear the fan going. It's always interesting how fans don't necessarily equal CPU consumption because this is lower. All right, so I mean, this seems fine so far. No particular problems. Yeah, seems all right. Slight degree of sluggishness as I roll over here, but not a massive amount, really. Yeah. Nope, seems okay. All right then, let's try Divinity. The fan hasn't quite stopped spinning after that last test. It is quite warm in the room today as well. That could have an impact. Well, let's fire up Divinity and see. Now, this one didn't run quite so well. Now, again, it's interesting that whilst general performance is okay, downloading and installing seems to take longer. But, you know, for the most part, you're not installing and downloading all the time. All right, then. We're finally here. This feels a little more sluggish, but so did it in Parallels as well. Let's have a look at CPU. So it's higher, but it's not crazy, to be honest with you. Okay, it's a little fuzzy. I don't know if this is coming through on the recording, but it's a little fuzzy. Let's have a look here, see what we could do. So the resolution has dropped here. Maybe I'll stick with this one for now. It's sort of basically what it was before. Let's up it to medium like we did as well. I feel like a lot of this could be optimized. Yeah, I mean, neither of them did a great job, but I'm sure you could tweak and tweak and tweak to get it better. The quality has jumped again. Oh, that's good. Let's have a look here. So it's a little higher, but again, it's not wild. The fan is going. I possibly should have assigned more memory, but the thing with the Parallels game version is it doesn't let you assign memory. It just assigns the maximum possible. So it's a little hard to know, but again, that is something you could tweak. So bear that in mind. So this doesn't look any worse. In fact, I would argue it looks slightly better from what I'm seeing. I don't really see any glitches. I still have no idea what the controls are in this version of the game. This actually looks a lot crisper. as well. A little hard to tell for you, I guess. Not quite sure why I'm struggling to move the character. So seems to be more of a control issue than anything. But they're moving quite smoothly. It's not as smooth as if I was running it natively, but it's not terrible. It's, this seems okay. I have not tried a combat sequence, of course, and we can see the CPU is about the same. It's passable. It's a little hard to judge, to be honest with you, without playing for a lot longer, but it's comparable. I would say there's different issues. The fan is going crazy. That is definitely true. It's no worse than in Parallels, but it's different. So that was trying in VMware Fusion. And of course, its price is good. It's free. Next, I'm going to take a look at UTM. This is fully free and open source and quite flexible. It's basically a front end to QEMU, which I have covered in previous videos, so I may look at that in a bit more detail in the future. I have created the virtual machine here already. On that, in the process of using it, it introduced me to this quite cool little free application called Crystal Fetch that lets you download Windows images, because often, especially the ARM version, it can be a little hard to find. And I found that actually really helpful, which is what I used to get hold of this virtual machine. I've set it up already. Let's have a quick look at the settings. Again, it doesn't really have any kind of quick optimization like Parallels does, but actually does have a lot of customization though. Let's change this to 4. I have 12 gigabytes. I may also up that to 16 for this test. So there's a lot of customization though, and this is the underlying command line stuff. So theoretically, you could actually create, I guess, profiles for gaming, etc., etc. And here, I mean, I have absolutely no idea what I should be picking. So, who knows? There's a lot you can do. It's actually pretty cool. So save that. I've already installed the games. It took about the same amount of time as VMware Fusion. I'm not entirely sure why Parallels downloading seemed to be quicker. Who knows? Could have been completely unconnected to anything. I will wait for this to boot up. I've also noticed interesting differences between the way that Windows gets set up. Sometimes it always wants me to create a user account connected to my Microsoft account, and other times it doesn't. I think it may be more to do with the ARM version. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, let's enter full screen. There we go. This looks pretty okay. Oh, Steam's updating. Very good. Let's also fire up Activity Monitor. You can see the QEMU here. So again, we have this install script, so I will come back when that's finished. Okay, so again, that took me through the installers, that took me through the 2K launcher, which is now firing up. The fan is going already, so this is definitely hitting my machine more, but as I say, there's probably a lot of optimization I could look into to get this working. But I think the important fact to note here is, yeah, there's a lot of customization, a lot of configuration, but you have to be prepared to do that. How do I? That's strange. Oh, there we go. Okay, now we've got it. That's a bit odd. That's already a bit of a rendering bug. So this could be interesting for a game. Okay, I'm going to figure out how to solve that and show you how I figure it out. So unfortunately, despite UTM and QEMU looking very promising for other use cases, there is this note here that there is no support for 3D acceleration and thus games. So we fall at the first hurdle there. But there is an open pull request here that is in progress, but it looks like it may be coming soon. So maybe this is something that I will revisit at a later date. You can see this has been stretching on for a very long time. Yeah, that's a shame. I think UTM and QEMU are very useful for other use cases, but for the games use case, not so much, unfortunately. Watch this space. I think that would be quite big if QEMU and /UTM supports this in the long run. I think this will be a pretty big deal, to be honest with you. But for the time being, not an option for games with UTM. Next, I'm going to look at Crossover. It actually sits on top of Wine. So Crossover itself is closed source, but they contribute a lot to Wine. It's also interesting to see here, this is an Intel application, so it's going to be running in Rosetta, which is going to present a couple of different factors, I think. But let's open it up and sort of get the boot process going. I get the feeling that anything like Wine or Crossover will be fine for running a lot of desktop applications and things like that, but maybe not for games. Although we are seeing games here, but we have to pick them from a store, I wonder. I mean, we should probably follow the same path that we followed in others. Let's try it with Steam and just see what happens. It's using these bottles, wine bottles. A lot of crossover with Homebrew on macOS there, strangely. A little confusing maybe. Just whilst that was doing its thing, I was interested to know where this stuff gets installed, because with a virtual machine, obviously, it can create like a 50, 60 gig file, but I know where it is, I can get rid of it. And I was wondering where it would install things here. So we have the bottles here, and then the programs actually go into applications. Let's see how that gets populated later, because now I have this icon in my dock. You get this interface that looks a little different, or maybe it's just because it looks weird running a Windows window in a macOS shell. If Crossover could work very well with games, it is really the most seamless option. It's a little intransparent about what's happening. So in the meantime, I'm actually going to have a look at some of these things. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to need. I'm not 100% sure what all of these are. Let's keep the metal one on, I think. I don't know. It seems the most relevant, maybe. You can also see it's kind of curious. Yeah, here we go. How it installs things. Wine configuration. This is where we get rather odd looking. I get the impression that there could be a lot of things I could enable, and maybe I could get games working, but my method here to compare is to not have to do too much. And with the virtual machines like Parallels, I didn't have to do too much. Okay, now I now have a Steam login window. I wonder if 1Password will work. Yeah, not really. Fortunately, though, copy-paste does work, so that's a help. And now I will download things. This may take a while. Whilst that's doing its thing, I thought it'd be good to take a look at impacts on the machine. So it's interesting here. Everything is basically separated out like these exe processes. You can almost see the impact of each actual process on the Wine server. So that's showing its heritage there. So at the moment, we're getting about 200-ish, just under 200. But it makes it kind of cool to be able to see that directly. Interestingly as well, you can see everything, yes, is running as an Intel process. Fan is going. It is quite warm today as well. So bear that in mind. Okay, so I would say that took less time to install. I guess the network stack is less abstracted. I don't know if that's really true. And now we're going to get a bunch of the install scripts you've seen on every other option I've looked at so far on this video. So I'm not really sure what's going to happen here. I'll let it run for a minute, and then once oh, here we go. We can see, a whole bunch of things opening and firing up there. So this is the error I got first. I'm going to try one other time. And I was having a quick look on the resources to see if I may change one of those advanced settings, just see if that makes any difference. So getting a debug window. Everything keeps opening up in my other screen, which is annoying. And yes, I got the same error again. So I'm assuming I have to shut things down. I mean, on a real computer, I could just swap the graphics card out mid-process. So to explain these, I was having a look. D3D Metal is a graphics API translation layer from the game porting toolkit supporting DirectX 11 and 12. Whereas this one is Vulkan based for Direct 3D 10 and 11. But there is a default Wine D3D engine. So maybe let's try that first and see what happens. I find it hard to know if things have stopped or not because it still seems to be sort of running in the background. So this is with the default graphics renderer. I'm not seeing any evidence. Yeah, we can see here a lot of the things running. So I don't think that worked. I'm sure I shouldn't really do this, but I don't really know what else to do. That doesn't seem to be working at all anymore. Okay, well in that case, I'm going to try enabling this option instead. I would have thought this meant I had to reboot, well, relaunch, I suppose, but nothing is telling me to. So I don't know if that means I need to do it or not. So it says it's not running. Okay, it's not running. Okay, let's try again. Okay, that did just take a long time, which is concerning in itself, I guess. Okay, all right, this is promising. We've got the 2K window showing. Now let's have a look at CPU. So it's hard to add all these up, but you could see a sort of total of, it's about the same, actually, interestingly. I wonder what all of these are as well. I'll just pick 11 for some consistency, and let's see what happens. I have got audio set to capture. I don't know if it's going to work. We'll see. Okay, so here we go. It's taken over the screen I don't usually use to share on the video, which is running at a much higher resolution, and I've had to kind of squish it down, so it could look a bit odd. I don't really know how to change it now. I also can't seem to click it, which is a shame because it was going so well. You can also see there is now a sieve process as well. So I'm going to have to force quit this and try again. Okay, so here we go. I will now let it just do its thing and not interfere and see what happens. I'm sure there is a way of controlling this. I think you can hear sound. I can hear it. Turn it down a little bit. So this is running quite well, actually, I will say. And let me switch to... Oh, actually, no, I really don't want to take any chances here. Let's get the game running first. No, same problem. That's kind of a real shame because things working very well, but not being able to start the game or play it is obviously a bit of a problem. Well, that is disappointing. I am sure there is a way to fix this. I'm almost determined to try because so far so good, really. But I'm just going to have to force quit this again. All right. Well, I will try with Divinity, but I get the impression we may have the same problem. And again, the download probably took less time than a virtual machine, which is interesting. We'll see if this works. I'm not hoping for much, but let's see. So again, an install script. So I'll let that do its thing and come back when it's done. Interestingly, yet again, you can see the different helpers coming and going here. Well, it's on the Steam. All right. Now, what screen will it open on? Okay. Again, there's all sorts of different processes reflecting, I guess, what would be happening if you were running it on Windows. Fan is going a little bit, but not too much. And yeah, it has jumped to the other screen. So interesting in that case, it jumped, and then I had to switch back to OBS, and then it minimized, the window minimized, and then maximized again. So it's doing different things. Okay, let's see. I can click this time. Okay. I can also actually pick from my different screens. So maybe I can jump it to the right screen. Let's see what happens. So that went to the internal screen. So I guess it's this one. Yeah, and that's the right resolution. So, and now if I come back to it, it jumps back. So I don't know why the other game didn't do that, but anyway. Whew, that's optimistic. Let's go for medium for now. Okay, so the fan is going wild. It's not terrible though. It's about 200%. So it's not massively different. Don't know if this is the game, I guess. We also have all these C# helpers. I think they're C#, Ceph#, something to do with C#, I guess. Okay. Huh. Actually looks pretty good. Yeah. Strange that the other game didn't work. It's a little jumpy, but not terrible. I'm moving quite slowly. There's some glitches here. Yeah, but the fan is going crazy. If I jump into, we can see basically the applications here, I think. Yeah. So we can see my Mac native version and the Windows version here. So it's just as an actual application. And I'm assuming if we had a look at the size of this, yeah, that's about what I'd expect, about 60 gig. So interesting. It's kind of something I'd be definitely willing to experiment with a bit more to see how else it might work and how I might be able to optimize it. So I took a decision to do this in a slightly different order, in that I covered Crossweaver before I covered Wine. And in a similar way that UTM is kind of a front end to QEMU, then you could argue that Crossweaver is a front end to Wine. But I'm going to give it a go. I think the amount of configuration I may need to do is possibly going to be a bit too much. But I don't know why some applications also open in the default terminal instead of any terminal. So this is the same one we've already seen. I'm not sure if these are errors, warnings. Now, I'm not quite sure what I do next. Start a program, so I'd have to install it somehow. I guess I'd have to download Windows Steam. So I'm going to do that. See what happens. Okay, things are happening. See if I can move this window. Good. Good. Okay. All right. Okay. Promising. Now, I have no way to change the graphics system, of course. Everything is possible if you figure out the configuration. You know, interestingly, from the times I have tried QEMU on the command line, you do see a lot of potential configuration options by looking at the quite extensive output we're getting here as well. So, yeah, all the various supported devices, on and on and on. You could start to understand why you might want to use Crossover. Yeah, there's a Wine process here. So again, it's all running on Intel. Different things here. It's not really doing very much right now. It's hard to know quite what's happening, if anything. So I've jumped through to this step because I wanted to show. Interestingly, one thing that Crossover did as well is you could use Mac shortcuts for copy and paste. But if you use Wine on its own, you have to follow the Windows pattern. So Control-C, Control-V, etc. So I'm sure I've been confusing Steam a lot by doing all these weird installations that I then delete again. So far, it's looking much the same as it did with Crossover. All this output is pretty wild. It does feel a little slower than doing it with Crossover. And we can see, yeah, it's just, yeah. So it's about the same at the moment. Okay, those are both now installed. I'm not 100% sure how my audio is going to work. I have set the Wine application to share audio, but I don't know if this technically is the Wine application or if it's this Wine preloader. I'll see. So let's begin, but let's try Sid Meier first again. I think one of the things I notice with using this sort of Wine-based approach is when things that are sort of happening in the background, you don't really know. Something is happening, but I don't know what exactly. In fact, I think this might have frozen. So that could be why. So I decided to force quit that. I wasn't really very sure where things had been installed. So I had to do some digging around because somewhere there's 60 gigabytes. It's really eating up my hard drive. And I found it's in this hidden.wine folder in your home folder. So here you can actually see, I always forget these weird different folders in Windows. And here it is. So I don't know if I could do. I'm just going to see if I can do this. It looks like it does work. There we go. Okay, there we go. It is a little slow. I may just go with Divinity, seeing as we know that kind of worked. I'm sure I played that for longer than 24 hours. I don't actually play games that much, but still, ironically, despite making this video, although the kinds of games I am demonstrating may give you an idea of that. So I'll have to let this run. Again, here we go. We can see some things happening here. So everything is always wine preloader. All right, I'll let that run and come back to you. Okay, so after all that installed, I got hit by this same error I had before. So I'm assuming there's some kind of graphics issue, but I'm not 100% sure how to configure it. This is why the front end is nice. I need to figure out how to do that. So I will find out and let you know. And to be honest with you, here is where I run into a whole bunch of confusion and problems because I can't find an obvious way in any of the documentation on how to configure things. And if you delve into internet forums, you see a mixture of try this thing, try that thing, which do or don't work, or people saying, you know, it's outdated, it doesn't work on modern Macs. This could explain the whole Intel process. Use crossover, use other options, etc., etc. So I think I will probably park that there and continue investigating some other options. But your mileage may vary. And if you do get things to work, then do let me know, because I'd be interested to know how in a definitive answer, as opposed to just lots of different opinions on the internet. So I think that is that for wine for now. But do let me know if you have any more success with it. Okay, so one that sits a little bit outside of some of the other options I have been looking at is Whisky. It uses Apple's game porting toolkit. Now, I think this means that the games offered will be limited, but let's see what we can do. I haven't launched it yet. I'm interested to see what happens first. So it needs Rosetta, that is good. It needs Whisky Wine. Now, this is, firstly, I like the name, but secondly, this is implying to me that it's also using wine under the hood. So that, but it very much prides itself and bills itself as being something aimed at people who don't know or don't want to know how to configure something like wine, and presenting this much sort of friendlier interface. It even proudly says, no terminal setup. Yes, just above that, I somehow missed it. Wine supercharged. So wine supercharged is Whisky. I do approve, with the power of Apple's game porting toolkit. And we have the whole bottle terminology here. Whilst it is CLI free, you can install a CLI, which is interesting. A bottle, as far as I understood in wine, is just kind of like the virtual machine. I'm not entirely sure why I need more than one. No, different versions of Windows. Okay, yep. You go all the way back to XP, which is interesting. Okay, so this is starting to look similar-ish. You can see the C drive, the terminal wine tricks is provided here as well, but it's doing something. So I'll let that finish. Let's see. Now I'm seeing next to nothing on the CPU, which is encouraging. It's probably the wine processes again. Oh, still running as Intel though, which is I may investigate if there's any progress on wine on Apple Silicon, or if they even want that. All right, so we have configuration here. So a lot of things are very similar. It builds itself predominantly as a game tool. So I'm going to say that I think I will just leave all of the configuration as is. I can open the C drive nicely, and it looks like it embeds it in a kind of more modern macOS way, inside a container. And I did notice that wine didn't clean up after itself, so I'll check that as well. Terminal wine tricks. Okay, so this is benchmarks. Interesting. Settings. I think I will sort of leave this for now. Okay, so the process is similar to wine and crossover. You download the exe and then run it. And you can see some other options I have already and see what happens. Again, I'm not sure of the best way of capturing audio, but soon find out. It's actually running very quickly. I will say that. I wish things would open on the same window every time. That would be good. So this is interesting because this is Apple Silicon, but Wine itself is running in Intel. Now, interestingly, again, much like Crossover, I can use macOS shortcuts here for copying and pasting, etc. Okay, so as you might be able to see from my changed background, this took me quite a lot of time and effort to get working. You'll also notice that I only have Divinity here. Strangely, I tried multiple times to install Civ 6 and it would always just freeze at a certain point. It's also strange because Divinity is larger, so I don't know why the download would keep freezing, but it would also kind of make Steam unusable in itself. So this is probably my 5th time of trying. So I just have Divinity and let's see what happens. So we're going to get all these install scripts. I don't know how long they're going to take. And if we could see, so yeah, you could see them doing something down here. And again, need to factor in Whisky is taking up about 190 and a handful of wine processes. Actually quite a lot when you add it all up. I kind of like having these individual processes, but it does make it quite hard to judge the performance, I think. And there may even be more things related here. Some of this kind of background processing can take a little while and it's not very transparent. So I will leave that for now and come back when it's done. Okay, so we now have the launcher window. Let's have a quick look at impact. Let me take my headphones off, see if the fan is going. Much like previously in this video, it's a hot day, so it's a little bit hard to tell if the fan's going over the background noise. It's kind of lukewarm, but it is quite hard to judge how much CPU is being used. I would guess around 240%. It's about the same as other times. We also have no real way of configuring memory, of course. But anyway, let's stop talking and fire it up. So again, I had to switch to a different screen. So the resolution is going to be a bit odd because it's been sort of squashed to down to 1080p from my larger screen here. But the sound is working. It's pretty smooth. It's running at a much higher resolution, of course. Let's... it's actually running quite well. And again, we have the different options here. So I'm going to switch it to the right screen. Every time I tried to switch the screen, it didn't really quite work. So I'll just keep it on this screen for now. Okay. I kind of want to be fair with the resolution, but let's just let it do what it wants, I think. It seems to have detected a lot of this. I'm going to be a little fairer, maybe. But if that truly does support all of those, then great, I guess. Okay. It looks pretty good. And every time you click away, it minimizes. Okay, well, this is quite crisp. Let's have a look at the CPU. Again, it's sort of high 200s, nearly 300 maybe. So it's about the same, I think. Okay, it's actually pretty smooth, in all honesty. Let's... Yeah. Oops. Yeah, it's actually quite impressive, in all honesty. I think I can zoom right in as well. It's pretty good. And I could have made it possibly even higher resolution, and it's not running particularly hot. I also have OBS running, of course. So it's quite impressive. It's a shame that Civ wouldn't work, and it'd be an interesting one to investigate because it was mostly on the installing, not the actual running, that was the problem. So all in all, pretty impressive so far for Whisky, apart from a few bugs here and there. Quite promising looking. So I've reached the end. You're probably all asking, will I stick with Parallels or switch? I do love the idea behind the wine tools. It feels tidy, and I kind of like the way that the file system, as odd as it looks, is on the Mac, so I can kind of manipulate it. Probably shouldn't, but I can if I want to. I can delete it. I can make it part of backups or not. You know, it's part of the Finder, so it feels kind of more seamless. However, those files still actually take up quite a bit of space, so you don't necessarily save any more space than using the virtual machine options. I also frequently need Linux machines for testing, so I would still need a second option to provide those anyway. That, of course, plus all of the stability and performance issues I found with all of the wine-based tools. So whilst I like them, and I will definitely keep an eye on Whisky and Crossover, I don't think I can use them right now. UTM and QEMU, well, keeping them around, they are free, and of course, because it supports so many different operating systems, it's not really taking up much space just to keep it for those times when I may need it. And also a lot of other tools, especially container runtime tools on macOS, will use QEMU anyway. So there's often a likelihood you have it installed without even realizing. So I will keep that around for some of the other use cases. And should it ever support 3D graphics in Windows, then I will try it again. And if it works well, then that really could be a game changer. But in the meantime, that means I need to weigh up Fusion and Parallels. Fusion doesn't feel quite as polished. Some of the configuration screens and things like that don't feel quite as macOS native as they are in Parallels. But of course, it is a much better price. It's free, and its options for running containers and Kubernetes are much more polished, which reflect its VMware roots, I guess, because that is a company that has specialized in these sorts of technologies for decades. I imagine this recent competition from VMware is some of the reasons that Parallels has also invested in these developer tools features of late, but I have found them to be unreliable. For example, its Minikube support has lots of issues, and I'm on a discussion tracking people trying to improve it. It also provides a VS Code extension where you can trigger and run and delete and remove virtual machines whilst you're developing on code that might need them. But at the same time, I found it to be a little unreliable. Again, there's an active community, but it's not. It doesn't work as well as I would hope. And then in recent months, I actually bought a mini PC for testing and benchmarking. So there's a little bit of me that wonders, do I even need a virtual machine tool right now? So this plus the better price is making me think that maybe when that subscription is up, it is time to try Fusion Pro, as much as I have loved Parallels over the past few years. But I have a couple of months left yet, so maybe something will change my mind. I have been Christian Chiller. Thank you very much for watching this video. Let me know in the comments what tools you use. Maybe there's some I've missed. I did look, but you never know. What have you found to be best for games, for productivity, etc., etc.? Anything new that I haven't heard of yet? Do let me know. You can find more about me at christianchiller.com, where you can also find other ways to support my work. Thank you very much for joining me, and take care, everybody.